Hi, my name is Kevin Weatherman, and today I'm on the Always Be Testing podcast.
Hey everybody, Ty DeGrange, the Always Be Testing podcast. We're doing episode 96. I'm really excited to talk to Kevin Weatherman today. Welcome to another episode of the Always Be Testing podcast. I'm your host, Ty DeGrange, and I am here with Kevin Weatherman. Kevin, what's up?
You know, it's a busy day here in New York City. I was glad to make it down to the studio here in Lower East Side.
Beautiful. Love having you on the podcast, but thank you for having me in your amazing studio.
To be clear, it's not my amazing studio. I just know some people who have this amazing studio, and they rent it out to podcasts by the hour, so definitely check out IMI Studios down in Lower East Side.
It's amazing. Now, is there a little history to share? I'm picking up some of it. I didn't get the full story, but what's the story with this place?
So there's a ton of history of like the records that were recorded here. Nas, obviously, just some amazing people. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool to see those recording artists on the wall. The way that this studio came into my life was through Pitch and Run, which is my running group. We had a pitch and runner named Yoshi who approached Nahal, my co-founder of Pitch and Run, and asked him, hey, we should start a podcast together. I have a studio down in Lower East Side, and you should start doing it. And so I was here about a month ago to do a podcast episode for Human Unicorn. Awesome. And now, like, as you can see, like doing an in-person episode is just so much better.
Yeah. You pick up so many great cues, and I have to say, I've had the pleasure of being in some studios, but this blows the others away. So this is amazing.
We'll have to add this to the B-roll at the end. This is not super interesting.
Super excited to talk to you, man. For those of you who don't know, Kevin's the co-founder of Upscale AI. They're running performance creative using AI to do connected TV ads. It's kind of amazing. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, we started the company. Since then, we've raised $5.5 million. The original thesis was that performance streaming was a huge opportunity to go after. You look at sort of the 2x2 of the advertising ecosystem, and it's sort of brand, performance. And so we thought that there was an opportunity to really focus on turning streaming into a performance channel. My co-founder and I, Herman, were at a company, Moloco, that was actually doing it for mobile app installs. And so we said, okay, is there an opportunity to potentially do this for like another big industry? And we honed in on like the Shopify ecosystem of D2C brands that, you know, were scaling on Meta, but they wanted to find additional channels. And so we really started doing the research and figuring out if there was an opportunity to help with streaming for that. At the time, there was companies like Tatari and Mountain that are still very big in the space. And through that exercise, I actually got reintroduced to a fellow AdBright colleague where Ty and I met each other, a guy named Mike Chang, who was at the time running product at QuickFrame, which got acquired by Mountain, which was focused on creative for streaming. And we honed in on the opportunity with AI to say, okay, what if we could drop the cost of creative down to zero and treat it like we do Meta, where brands are putting dozens, if not hundreds of ads into the machine learning system for streaming. And so that's sort of where we settled in on of, okay, the future of performance streaming is going to be a lot of creative that matches where the user is in their journey, and then being able to both measure and drive performance outcomes purchases specifically. So we're doing that today for Shopify brands. It's working extremely well. Scaled up, raised $4 million in January on top of the 1.5 that we raised a year and a half ago. And just scaling up the business, working with dozens of D2C brands now, and trying to get to 50, 60 by this time at the end of the year.
Amazing. Yeah, and just like for context, there's a lot there to unpack, but Kevin has a wealth of knowledge. Obviously, we met at a Sequoia-backed startup called AdBright, which feels like, ages ago.
Because it was ages ago. Like, we're old. 2025 minus 20007. That's a lot of years since we worked together.
Crazy. A lot has changed. But I think it's also interesting. You have, like, stepping back and thinking about Kevin, like, you've been the first business hire at MoPub that got acquired by Twitter. You've been the first business hire at a lot of startups. You've launched your own businesses. You're an angel investor. So I think you bring a lot to the table in addition to what you're building now with Upscale AI.
Absolutely. I mean, so going all the way back, I think if you're listening to this podcast right now, one of the things that I would encourage you to think about, the old saying, like, go skate to where the puck is going. When you look at each jump that I made along my career, there was that like moment in which I said, okay, 3 to 5 years from now, the world's going to look differently. And I want to build my next stage of my career journey to take advantage of what's going to happen 3 years from now. So I was working at a limo company in San Francisco, Bowers Limousine, like picking up the phone call, seeing if people wanted a limo to their high school prom, etc. And while working there, a guy named Ward called in, head of operations at Google, and said, I want to pay you to take all of the Google employees to work every day. So I pitched the business, went down and met with Larry and Sergey. We had 16 buses that we brought down there. Wow. We signed a $16 million contract to take the Google employees from San Francisco to Mountain View every day on a Google shuttle. And when that bonus check cleared, I asked my banker friend, okay, what does Google actually sell? And he's like, ads. They sell ads. So internet advertising startup, San Francisco. A week later, AdBright got funded, and I became the first hire after the Series A. Amazing. So the point of that story is, like, I was seeing this company being able to afford $16 million just to take their employees to work every day. Okay, where is the world going? Online ads. Yeah. Fast forward, I'm at AdBright. I'm working with publishers. They're saying, like, I need to work with more partners. I ended up almost co-founding Rubicon and then going to work for Pubmatic. Fast forward 3 years later, Fandango is one of my customers. Mm-hmm. They launch a mobile app. That mobile app drives 60% of sales for a new movie called Twilight. And then that's when I got into mobile. And I think we're at a moment right now where AI is that thing where if you're not hands-on keyboard working with AI, it's just one of those moments, whether it is mobile or just the internet in general, where you want to be, seat in chair, hands on keyboard, playing with AI.
Yeah, it's definitely inspiring us to think about that. It's impacting everything we do. It's a huge driver for everything. So I couldn't agree more. And I think you've obviously done a really good job of being hustling, thoughtful, and absorbing, learning, and thinking about what is next. And I think that's something that you've done really well. Speaking of that, obviously the podcast, we talk a lot about learnings and, like, what did you get from this experiment? What did you get from that? Was there an aha moment that in your career you feel is notable around the, like, testing concept? When in various roles you've had, you've seen all kinds of interesting things. Was there some that were aha moments that are kind of notable that you want to share around the, like, testing or campaign or marketing side of things?
Yeah, so I would say, as a business person, figuring out how to understand how tests even work is, bar none, like, something that you have to learn. So I remember early days of Pubmatic, we would create structured 30-day tests to test Pubmatic versus AdMeld. We would work with the publisher to set up a round robin on every impression so that one was going to one competitor, one was going to competitor B, and figure out who would make more money. Now, we ended up winning a lot of those tests, and a lot of it was not only when the test got started, being able to set it up so that it was truly 50-50 in terms of the traffic that was being received, et cetera. But then when the test went live, there was an all hands on deck moment across the team of, like, what could we be doing more in order to drive more performance? So at the time, things like changing price floors, approaching our demand partners, there was just a lot of things that we could go to, design the test to be structurally fair from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then once the test went live, syncing internally and saying, what more could we be doing to drive better performance constantly? And that was 15 years ago. And to this day, we are doing incrementality tests with companies like House. And we're doing all of this A/B testing. Every time a company wants to work with us, they want to figure out if this creative performs better than that creative. So I think just like learning how to test is a skill that you need to learn.
Yeah.
If you want to become a chef, you have to learn knife skills. If you want to be in performance advertising, you have to learn how to test things in general.
Yeah.
And then I think the flavor of testing is going to change all over the place. But I think as a student of performance, just knowing like what are the different ways that somebody could test something is super important.
You kind of alluded to those bake-offs and those A/B tests in the early days, 15 years ago. How different do you think that is now for the content sites out there that are trying to monetize? I know that's not what your primary focus is with upscale, but I'm curious to know, like, how has that world changed from your perspective? Because we deal with it a little bit on our side too.
Yeah, I would say that tactically speaking, it went from a world in which most people didn't know how to test to now the people in the room have opinions on which test is a better, more accurate way to test something. Do I show all the same impressions to one user? Do I round robin between users? Even with things like, CRO, what's the best way to design the test? All of those things I would bucket into the world of everyone is speaking fluent testing. And now it's a matter of what's the best, designing the right test for the right goal that you're trying to achieve. So whether it is driving revenue per click, or figuring out which users are the best users, or which, in our case, which creative is the best creative, designing the right test framework is probably like the biggest thing you have to dive into.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing that so much of this stuff has become available, more readily usable, from MMM solutions to the multi-touch solutions to what Ipscale is building with Creative for connected TV. And I think you're spot on. It's like, how do you give it the best inputs? Because without that, you're kind of in trouble, right?
Flying blind.
Yeah.
Even when we started this company, people weren't doing geo incrementality. And I would say, like, not only has Meta come out and say, like, geo incrementality is best practices, YouTube has come out and said geo incrementality is best practices. But between companies like Workmagic and House and now Polar, all of these companies have come out, and the transition, I would say, that I've seen from multi-touch to now geo incrementality with
like
multi-touch.
Like a holdout test, you mean?
Yeah, where they're like only running on 40% of, or 60% of DMAs and holding out 40.
Yeah.
I think that has become pretty ubiquitous among advertisers that we work with in the e-commerce space.
Yeah.
And obviously it helps that Meta is on stage at their biggest performance event saying, like, incrementality is the best way for you to know if this is working or it's not.
Yeah, and a lot of third parties and data science folks and measurement folks are corroborating that, and the documentation and the science backs it to say we don't want. Let's get to less correlation and more causality.
I mean, not to call out your name, but we went from a world of like single tests to a world of always be tested.
Well done, sir. That's gonna make the soundbite, I think. No, it's amazing, and I think that one of the things I was fascinated by is how connected TV can be so measurable. I think initially people associate TV with not measurable. And it's quite the contrary. I'd love to maybe hear you expound on that, since you are investing so much in connected TV.
Yeah, I think there's the like measure twice, cut once rule that also applies here, in the sense that measurement isn't about one way of measuring. Mm-hmm. If you're always testing, not only are you in a world where you are, in the case of most of our partners that work with a vendor like House or Workmagic, they'll run 3 simultaneous tests. Like, they have a calendar of tests that are always rolling. What worked this month might not work next month.
Yeah.
So the framework of always be testing is now like baked into these businesses. In terms of CTV, there's basically 3 levers that you can pull. So there's time of day, there's geo, and then there's IP address. The fourth is sort of like one that is happening quite a bit, but not everyone has access to it, which would be like when a purchase event happens and you get a hashed email, you can then sync back to logged in users that are logged into, let's say, Hulu or any of these logged in streaming services. So that is a fourth way that people are able to measure it. But at the end of the day, like some of the least sophisticated advertisers, and this is true of like linear 10 years ago, you could just run an ad for 3 hours a day and be able to see, okay, what happens if I run an ad nationwide for 3 hours and measure that impact?
Yeah.
The geo incrementality has been able to allow companies to say, okay, I want to run in these 25 cities, and let's see the impact in these 25 cities versus the other 25 cities where we're not running ads. So the geo incrementality gives you like long-term understanding. And then where we're focused on training the machines is down to the IP address. So the television that's on your wall is connected to the router that's at your house, which is also connected to your phone and your laptop. So when you're watching Tubi or Pluto and you see a Branch Furniture ad, it has a coupon code on it. You then go to your phone or your laptop and you actually make the purchase of a Branch Furniture chair. Even if you don't use the coupon code, most of the time when it's a single household, we're able to identify that television 4 hours later or 3 hours later, the same router that was connected to the TV then went and made a purchase.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty easy way to be able to connect the dots. Now, does it catch everything? No. iOS blows away IP on a lot of traffic. If it's coming inside of like a Meta browser or other places, a lot of that stuff gets knocked away.
Yeah.
So that's where like I can measure the direct part of it, which is very similar to an MTA, sort of last click.
Yep.
But then I can also understand globally what's happening in the cities that I'm running those creatives in.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Sort of thinking through a related topic, you know, a lot gets thrown around of like, oh, this is the best practice. You got to do this, especially when it comes to AI generated ads. There's so much new information coming out about what's working, what's not, are they performing versus non-AI. Is there like a best practice where you're like, yeah, that needs to be like kind of rethought a little bit?
The reality is we're in a testing mode right now. At the end of the day, what worked a year ago, or sorry, what didn't work a year ago works today. So I'll give you a perfect example. We were playing around with Weatherman a year ago. Yeah. And most of our advertisers would actually say, I don't like the quality of this voiceover. Can we hire a voice actor? So more than half of the ads that we made 12 months ago required a voice actor. Today, 0 of our creative that are actively running have a voice actor.
The AI is good enough.
The AI is better than humans.
Wow.
Because they can enunciate great.
Wow.
In ElevenLabs, you can go in there and change inflection and tone. They're customizing the voice based on if they're selling something or not. All of this is now being incorporated. And I would say that in a lot of cases, other than maybe like the top 0.1% of like audiobook voice actors, most AI now, the AI coming out of ElevenLabs anyways, is better than what you can get out of voice actors. So that is sort of that exponential improvement that we're seeing.
Wow.
A year ago, like we were good at writing scripts in terms of the LLMs. Today, they're amazing at writing scripts. So the ability for any brand, whether it is for running ads on Meta or running ads anywhere, the ability for you to create a very complex prompt about your company, about your brand guide, feed it into any of the LLMs and say, give me 20 ad ideas. Remember that the LLMs are good at giving you average responses. Like you're getting the average response of the internet. And so you'll get 20 average creatives. And where I think the sort of human plus machine comes into play when all this AI stuff is having the human be the editor to elevate the 3 ideas that were good ones, and then expound on those 3 ideas, draft up multiple versions of scripts for those 3 concepts, and then turn them into creative. Right now at Upscale, we aren't using any video that is generated by AI. It's very close. I mean, we're talking a month or 2, maybe a quarter or 2 away from being able to take an image of a chair and turn it into a video of a chair. but we're very close, especially if you're a brand who cares about like pixel perfect assets for a television that's 65 inches across. The ad needs to look good on that format.
Yeah.
And so we're close, but we're not quite there yet. I mean, everyone's probably seen some of the creative that have come from some of these companies, like the dentist that did the gorilla ad. Like those are cute and fun.
Yeah.
A lot of brands are going to say like it's not at the quality bar of something that I would be excited to pay, in a lot of cases, millions of dollars over the next X number of months to be running on television.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. There's so much to kind of go through there. You know, I think that the AI piece is kind of insane, of just like what's happening, the learnings, the speed of it. I mean, you kind of alluded to like, okay, in a month this is going to happen. Like, where do you think we're going to be in a year?
I don't know where we're going to be in a year. I think the cool thing is not about trying to predict how these models get better. The cool thing is about playing with them. Yeah. I remember being one of the first people that I knew from the AdBright crew that we know that got into mobile. And I was like one of the first people who was like downloading these mobile apps and getting pre-release versions of Draw Something and things like that. And so I was like playing with these apps before anyone else had access to them.
Yeah.
And I think the same remains true for AI. Like, it doesn't matter what AI is capable of. I think you as a employee, as a team member, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, owe it to yourself to like play with all of these tools, just like a kid. Like, this is fun stuff. This is Oregon Trail back when I was in elementary school. Like, this is a game opportunity. And yes, we can have the, you know, what can I do to use this in a business sense framework to it. But at the end of the day, we're playing with tools where we don't know what they're capable of. Do I think we'll have like fully, like, I do a prompt and make a television commercial? Absolutely. Like, in the next year and a half, there will be, you know, whether it's VO3 or whatever, OpenAI's version 5, there will be ads that are made that are completely devoid of original assets from the brand that are great high quality ads that you might not be able to tell the difference on.
Amazing. You kind of alluded to the game and like, you know, playing and play. And I think there's been a lot of conversation from investors and early stage startups about how, you know, the new great big things coming in business and in venture look like games. You're an angel investor. Give us a little bit about like how you think about investing. What are you looking for when you have done things that have worked and not? And just love to know more about how you think about that.
Yeah, so every 9 to 12 months, I'll write like a thesis on what I think, how things are going to change. 4 or 5 years ago, I wrote a thesis on Shopify. Like, I thought the ecosystem was going to be huge. I had already invested in Attentive. I ended up making an additional investment in Crystal as well as Ghost. And so I think from an angel, I'm going back to the beginning, go to where the puck is going. Where do I think the world's going to be in 3 to 5 years? And write checks today on founders who are going to be building the future versions of this world. So that gets me really excited. You know, in the questions that you sent me, one of the things you asked was like, what are you looking for in the founder? And the easiest answer to that is, if I wasn't building upscale, would I beg that person to go work at their company or work for them? And that's a proxy for like, is this person a 10X founder? So what goes into being a 10X founder? So vision, ability to articulate a world that exists 3 years from now, 5 years from now, that they can go build. 2, acquiring talent. So people like myself, people that are great at their jobs, want to go work with that person. And then 3rd, ability to fundraise. So the storytelling and the acquiring talent only makes sense if you can actually pay them and build a company around it. And I think there are some great people out there that might have 2 out of 3, but don't have all 3. And the checks that I've written into founders like D. Murphy, like Brian Long, that are, and you know, having worked with Jim Payne, those are the type of founders that really do have that sort of 10X founder ethos in them. And they're able to sell the vision, build a team, and then fundraise against it.
Amazing. I love that. I love having that trifecta for you to actually do that. You've had some good recommendations on resources of like, oh man, you got to read this or you got to check out this. What's something you can share with the audience that you would recommend to aspiring entrepreneurs or folks in the audience?
Well, number one is just be curious. Like
Yeah.
I can't reiterate enough. You get the opportunity to play with software and do all of these things. So I think being curious is just one of those things that separated out me from all the other people who started their career at the same time as me. Like, what was one of the big differences? Like, I was paying attention to little things because I was curious about what was going on in the world, how companies were built. When I joined AdBright, the first all hands, I was like, how did AdBright get funded? What's that process? And Philip Kaplan walked us through, like, this is what angel investing is like. So be curious is number one. In terms of just like actual day-to-day content, so I always go to High Output Management is my like the book I go to where it's just like these lessons I have carried with me throughout my entire career. And then I think like startups are not meant to be easy. Like you're signing up for a job where 90% of the people who do this fail. So how do you become part of that 10%? And I think Ben Horowitz's Hard Thing About Hard Things is just like a really good field guide for what it's like to be a founder who is trying to be part of the 10% that succeed.
Yeah. No, those are phenomenal. I think those have made the RBL reading list, and I think Andy Grove's High Output Management was one of the first. I think you recommended to me specifically when I was launching Roundbarnlabs. So tip of the cap to you for that. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Is there a tool that you're looking at maybe in the B2B SaaS realm where you're just like, what is going on here? We should be checking out.
Yeah, Clay's spreadsheets on steroids. So clay.com, they recently raised an additional $100 million in funding. It's one of those tools that as somebody who's been an SDR, who's been an account executive, who's been a director of sales, who's been a VP of sales, who's been a CRO, everything that I can do in each one of those jobs manually, I can then teach Clay to automate. And so whether it is like I posted on my LinkedIn, I did a ICP research. So is this an ideal customer profile? Based on if yes, then go and find the right CEO, founder, CMO, whatever it may be. Like the ability to like string on a series of events into what I would have had an SDR doing literally like 4 years ago, if I had built this company 4 years ago, that is just being done automatically. When someone books a call on my Calendly, is this a Shopify store?
Wow.
How much money do they make? Who's the founding team? How long have they been around? What are their investors? Do they run streaming right now? All of those are like checks that you can either use their integrations or you can just straight call OpenAI to run a web query to answer those questions. And I think the combination of either I can use a direct integration with the vendor, whether it is built with or store leads to like understand what technology is being used, where it's like an API call, or just calling the open web with a query to OpenAI or Perplexity or Claude. The ability to now do either one of those things, to me, gives Clay just this infinite ability to scale into like anything I can imagine. Like I wish a salesperson could do X. I wish before every meeting I got a full dossier of the person I was meeting with. Like every time you book a podcast guest, it can give you a full history of them. It can draft everything. Like all the things that you're manually putting into these LLMs and getting answers back, inside of Clay, you can automate it.
Love it. Huge plug. Maybe they'll get a little link in the show notes, but he nailed that. It's amazing what we're starting to be able to pull from these tools. It's insane. What's something that people might not know about you?
Yeah, so I shared this on a previous podcast, but like I was asked, like, what's the biggest moment in your life that was like a sliding door moment? Yeah. And you're one of the few people who knew me when I still drank.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't know that I'm sober.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just one thing that a lot of people don't know about me, that
yeah.
At 28 years old, when I was starting a new job at Pubmatic and I got in a bar fight the night before, and woke up from a blackout drunk the night before. I called a friend and said, I don't ever want to drink again. Went to AA meetings for 500 straight days in San Francisco.
Wow.
And just committed myself to saying, okay, I don't want to drink anymore. And the version of me that exists today versus the version of me that would have existed had I kept drinking is so different. So that's something a lot of people don't know about me, and it's a big part of my story.
It's awesome, man. And like the things you've achieved, it's funny to see a lot of people, obviously now that, you know, I'm in my mid 40s, you're probably not far
43.
behind me.
So it's pretty close to mid.
Got a couple of years on you, but we're at that age now where a lot of our, you know, cohorts and peers are already starting to drink less. You've got this previous generation that are drinking way less. I'm like, you know, half joking with friends like, hey, it's health and wellness week. I'm at a marketing conference. There's booze everywhere. But like, I'm getting my morning workouts in. I'm getting my steam rooms.
Nobody cares if you're not drinking.
No.
And that was one of the really big lessons. Like, you thought that everyone cared. Oh, what are you drinking? Oh, you're not drinking today. Da, da, da. The other thing is the options have changed. When I was getting sober, there was O'Doul's, and that was it. And now we've got Athletic Brew. I mean, one of your questions
I've
is
been
like,
drinking
what
Athletic
product?
Brew.
Athletic Brew is amazing.
Yeah.
I went to a hockey game a couple months ago. I had Athletic Brew at the game. I feel like I'm drinking at the game.
Yeah.
And so like the options for sobriety have really changed quite a bit.
It's awesome, man.
It's been cool.
It's a testament, man. You got such energy and that curiosity and that drive, and it's like worked for you. And it's just, it's amazing all the cool stuff you've achieved. So it's a testament, and it's a good learning for people out there that are, you know, learning from other people and trying to get better. Amazing. I've got to say, this has been we're at now episode 96. Kevin is dropping knowledge bombs. We get to do it live in person. It's awesome. Thank you. For folks that want to learn more about you, where do they find you? What's the deal? What do you suggest?
Yeah, so if you're in New York, come run with me. I have a run club that I co-founded with Nahal from ENIAC called Pitch and Run. We run 6 days a week in New York. So Monday, Friday in Chelsea, Tuesday, Prospect Park, Wednesday, Williamsburg and Central Park, and Thursday in Tribeca. We're also in 15 other cities. So it's become something where we've gone global. We're in London and Dublin now, as well as 13 stateside cities.
Congrats.
So it's a pretty cool thing. I encourage you to come run with me. As you'll find out if you do follow me, I'm a big marathoner. So about to ramp up training for the New York City Marathon. And then I'm on LinkedIn, Kevin Weatherman. I'm on socials as Kevin Runs NYC.
Maybe I'll come join you tomorrow for a little run.
You should.
Amazing. Kevin Weatherman, everyone. Thank you. Great episode. See you, everybody.
Cheers.